Welcome to Observations. I'm Brian McMillan, Executive Editor of the Palm Coast Observer, and I have with me Kaiti Lenhart, the Flagler County Supervisor of Elections. Welcome, Kaiti.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me.
Of course.
So your website says you have a 1,200 square foot garden. I assume that's a typo? That's impossible?
No,
right?
it is accurate.
So who pulls the most weeds in your
Well, I'm still training the children to do it. It's not going well. So I'd say probably my husband. He does a lot of the maintenance on the garden.
Is that therapeutic?
It is. Yeah. It also produces some delicious food.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So another question, do you like going to the library during early voting time?
There's other times of the year that it's probably less busy that I would prefer to go. No, I don't mind it. It's, it's really busy, obviously, during an election. I don't know why, because the community center has a larger parking lot and larger facility, but people love the library.
It's sort of become the hub of all the campaigning for some reason.
Yes, it is.
The gauntlet. So you started working for the elections office in 2009.
Correct.
And you were appointed by Governor Rick Scott to be the supervisor in 2015, elected in 2016, and again in 2020. So how has election security changed since you started?
Wow, since that time, I don't know if we have enough time to cover all of that. The elections office wasn't designed with security in mind. I guess things have really changed since then.
You mean like security of the vote, or like actually the doors?
All of it, all of it. Network security, physical security. We've had to revamp the entire office. So it is a brand new elections office since I've made some improvements to both the physical security with, our tabulation room is now an actually enclosed space, and we're working on getting RFID, so that will be an auditable.
RFID, what's that?
It's like a scanned card, and it has an auditable trail of who has access to certain areas, and that will be an improvement that we're working on right now. But as far as physical security, it's a lot different. And then, of course, network security, which would be a whole nother interview. But we've done a lot. I mean, we have brand new servers, a brand new voting system, new electronic poll books. Everything is up to date and state of the art and protected through various different means. It's all outlined on my website, or the elections office website, under election security.
Very good. So the Florida Senate, I saw the other day, is considering a law change that would, here's a quote, require, among other things, it would require county election supervisors to conduct reviews of voter registration rolls at least once a year rather than every other year.
Okay.
So how would that impact you?
Well, we already do list maintenance, and we do it more frequently than is required. And also, we are getting information now from the ERIC state system, which is the Electronic Registration Information Center. It's a consortium of different states that share voter registration data. So we're already doing our list maintenance more frequently than is required by law. I don't really understand the details of it. I'd have to read through that.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are proposed, but not law yet.
I'd have to read through that to see how it would impact us.
When you talk about list maintenance, I mean, this is a list of everybody in the county who's registered to vote, and making sure that they really are who they say they are? Or?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that goes back to some of the improvements, and one of I didn't mention is our addressing system. We are now a point-based, and one of the most current and up-to-date point-based mapping system in the state of Florida as far as elections go. We did that. We converted from a range system to a point system back in 2017. It's one of the first things.
Range versus a point. What do you mean by that?
So basically, in GIS, you can think of like 1 through 15 Main Street, and anyone can register at any of those addresses that are available. That would be a range system, but the point system is based on actual houses, so every address has a point. So if 2 Main Street is a business, we can exclude that and just do 1, 3, 5, and exclude anything that's vacant or a business address, commercial, all of that. So when you're talking about list maintenance, it sounds more technical, and you wouldn't think of a mapping system to be related to that, but we make sure that when people actually register at an address, that it is a residential address, and then their information as far as, their personal info goes through the Department of State. So their driver's license number, the social, all of that's verified at a state level before they're actually approved to be a voter.
So is the idea that if someone made up an address that you would catch that?
Yes, we absolutely would.
Wow.
And yes, they do.
Okay, they do that.
Yes, they
People
do.
try.
Yeah, I don't know if they really try to be deceptive, but they would try to register at like a postal service address, like the mailbox, etc., or something like that, and use that address as the residential address. And clearly you can't live in a P.O. box, so yeah, we exclude those.
So can you give any other examples of how people try to cheat the system and then how you stop them from doing that?
Well, I think one of the main things that I probably on your list is to talk about voter fraud. People do try to vote twice. I know it's hard to believe, but there are people out there.
Is that because they're like, they forgot, or they sent in the mail and then they try again? Or
people do forget, and I feel horrible because, one day I'm probably going to forget something important. I mean, as far as voting, you wouldn't think someone would forget that they voted, but they do, and it's just because the ballots are mailed out in advance of the election, and they are very excited about voting. And so they come in and try to vote again, and we say, you already voted, and they'll argue about it, until we show them the actual ballot with their signature on it, their mail ballot, and then the return address on the other side. They're like, oh my God, I forgot. Yeah. I sent that in, didn't I? I'm like, yeah, you did. Yes, you did. But people do try to vote twice. But they'll in 2020 we found that people would like to get their vote by mail ballot, and that's fine because a lot more people had requested them because of the coronavirus pandemic. And still, I believe those numbers are going to probably stay probably really higher than because of that than in previous election cycles. Historically, we've always been moving up, but I think they're going to stay pretty high. Anyway, so they get their ballot. And then they would decide to vote in person. So they'd bring the ballot with them to the early voting site, drop it in the secure drop box, and then go in and vote. Well, their early voting vote would count, of course, but once we got the ballots back to the office, we see that they voted in person. And with all of that, information is sent to the state attorney's office because they did attempt to vote twice.
But it's always caught.
Yes, our system is designed to do that, believe it or not.
Very good.
One vote per person.
Yep. What is more secure, voting in a booth or voting by mail?
Well, it's really a personal choice. I really feel like both ways are absolutely secure ways to vote. If people are concerned about maybe their ballot being lost in the mail, there are options for them to bring it to us in person. A lot of people prefer to get it at home. That's just, what we've seen. As far as voting in person and it being secure, absolutely. Whenever you see your ballot go into the box and the message pops up, your vote has been counted. It absolutely is counted at that moment when you put it in the box. But
you could get it in the mail.
Yes.
Fill it out, not send it back in the mail, but just go drop it off in the box, right?
You can. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was that a popular method?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Were you surprised by that?
Very. No, I don't think so. I really expected people to drop it off in person. We always have those folks anyway. I mean, Florida's been a mail ballot state for over 20 years. So, I mean, we've been sending out ballots for a very long time, and there's always that group of folks that will come into the office and want to hand it to a person over the counter. And what we'll do is we'll actually take that ballot and verify the signature on it while they're standing there to give them that peace of mind, to let them know, yes, everything's in good order, your vote will be counted. And yeah, the boxes were very heavily used in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine a day when you can vote with your phone?
Maybe. Our equipment is able to read, basically would be like a sample ballot on your phone, and you can make your choices, and then it would be able to be scanned by the equipment, and then produce a paper ballot. I don't know. The legislature would probably have to make some changes in order for us to do that. But as far as voting
seems like
online,
they're going the other way, making it a little bit harder and hopefully more secure.
We'll see.
So in previous years, you have conducted mock elections
Yes.
at schools. Why do you do that?
We do that for a variety of reasons. First of all, it's good to get our youth involved in the process of voting. It encourages them to, study the candidates. The teachers can use it in the classroom to really build on that in the curriculum and they even have debates in high school. They'll set up one side of the classroom and talk about their candidate and the other side, They can really use that as a real voting learning experience, even though they're not quite old enough yet. So that's really important. It's part of our civic engagement priorities to get out there in the schools. We also do voter registration drives in the high schools.
So do you think that someone who votes at a school election is more likely to then, when they are eligible to vote for a municipal, than
that's kind of the idea. Yeah, because they had that experience, and maybe they'll pay attention a little bit more when they get older and decide, hey, elections could be important for me. I think I'll research those candidates like we did in class that time.
So why do you feel it's important for people around the world, around the U.S., and around Flagler County to trust that the elections are secure in this country?
There's a lot of different reasons. I think that, the most challenging thing, at least this year so far, has been the spread of misinformation. And that really erodes voter confidence. And if you think about what could impact turnout, you would really need people to believe that their vote is counted. And when there's so much of this misinformation out there and people just attacking, not really attacking, but there's just so much discourse and no one's really civil when they talk about certain things, it seems like, I've noticed. It erodes confidence in the system. So we need people to be engaged and actively voting for them to be represented, and that builds a healthy community. It's very important.
So to wrap up, can you point to a couple of myths and what fact and fiction? What's the myth that people are kind of circulating, and then what the real answer is?
That is a good question. I just came out with our
Mythbusters. I saw those on the newsletter.
Yes.
That's what made me think of it. I didn't bring them with me, though.
That's okay. So there's several. And that newsletter, if you want to sign up for it, those who are watching this, it's on the Elections Office website where you can sign up and get election news every month delivered to your inbox by email. But the Mythbusters, okay, so the first one I would think is most important is it's easy to vote twice, and we've kind of talked about that process. The second one is dead people are voting.
Yeah.
We do not have zombie voters in Flagler County.
How do you know?
We receive information from the Bureau of Vital Statistics and also the Social Security Administration daily, and we process those. A lot of times whenever someone will have a family member that's passed away, they'll call the office, and of course at first we offer our condolences. That's a terrible phone call, trust me.
Yeah.
I've done it for years. And then most times when we look up that spouse or family member, that process of removal has already happened because we get that information so quickly. So I'm not really worried about there being dead people on the rolls, and it's very much more unlikely that a dead person would actually vote. It's just very funny. Good. I'm sorry. I have a very dry sense of humor. So that's the big thing. Also, people are worried about their address on their license versus what's on their card, or do they need a voter information card when they show up to vote? All those things are covered. I think the most important thing is as more people move to Florida, they may be coming from a state that has open primaries. They need to be aware that Florida is a closed primary state. So when they move here, even though they're independent and they're used to picking whatever candidate they like in a primary, in Florida you have to be registered with the party in order to make that choice in a partisan race. So hopefully we can get the message out there for folks that are recently moved to Florida or just new residents here, because our first election this year will be a primary. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we're making our plans, in the next week or so to how to tackle coverage of the 2022 elections, and I'm sure we'll be in touch in between now and the end of the year. But yeah, for anybody who's watching, there's a lot of information on flaglerelections.com. You can see the local candidates and who's running for what. So thank you for helping explain what's going on with the Elections Office. And,
absolutely.
Appreciate it.
I'll just want to say thank you to the community. Sometimes I get the most out of the blue random email from just someone out there who says, I love the website. I found what I was looking for. I really have confidence in the system. Thank you for what you're doing. And that, that goes a long way, because sometimes it's a thankless job. Mm-hmm. It's never an easy job, but it's always worth it to get that positive feedback from the community. We have an amazing group of people that live in this county, and I'm very, very glad and honored to do the job that I do, and making sure that their vote is counted. That's the most important thing.
Well, it's an important role. As I was kind of hinting out with this question, I do think that the eyes of the world are on the United States and how we handle our elections. So thank you for playing your part in it, and thank you for joining us on Observations.